Hi, y'all. This is Kristen Chenoweth.
Hi, I'm Gloria Stefan.
This is Sarah Bareilles.
Hi, I'm Patty Lapone.
This is Lin-Manuel Miranda. You're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network.
There's a cat over here. There's a cat over there. And the wrong one died. And the wrong one died.
Welcome to The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breakdown of the catastrophe. I'm your host, Mike Abrams.
And welcome to an all-new episode of the Theater Podcast. I'm your host, Alan Seals.
And we are doing a Broadway Podcast Network crossover today. We had the pleasure of seeing Cats, the Jellicle Ball at the Perlman Performing Arts Center tonight. We saw the second preview, and this will be coming out after they have officially opened. And what an incredible show. So I'm going to kick us off here. I want to ask you, is this what you expected?
No, it was not what I expected, and in a very good way, because I did not know the extent of the ballroom dancing, how it was integrated into the show, because when you say ballroom, that conjures up a couple different types of dancing styles. This was so far beyond my expectations.
Unbelievable. So having talked to the directors, the musical director, and had the chance to kind of hear the thought behind it, I had a little bit of better idea going in, but it still exceeded my expectations by so much. The energy in the crowd is unbelievable. Like, it is so much fun of a crowd.
And they say that in the intro too. And if we didn't imply this already, warning, spoilers. And so it starts out ultimately just getting the crowd involved. And they're like, you know, you're part of the dance. You're part of the party. Like, talk along with us, shout it out. So they encourage you from the beginning to just express yourself and yell and through the whole thing. And so the music never stops because this is Cats. So you're always able to add on to the noise.
Yeah. So let's give a quick rundown of kind of what to expect. So you call out spoiler alert, which is good because we're going to talk a little bit about this particular production, but also, like, it's at its core Cats, which is, we can't spoil. It's been around for way too long for us to have a alert on that for at this point. But they do start that way, and you are getting a very traditional storytelling of Cats. It runs through the music in order with the same kind of musical numbers, but with this other interpretation through, because they're not in Cats. It's not the traditional dance number you want, but from a poetry storytelling perspective, it's the same.
It's identical.
It's maybe clearer because the ballroom gives, I think, a little bit more of a clear picture into what the poems try to weave together with the competition aspect.
That's a really good point, because that's something that I found was very, very helpful. And we've always joked about it for years on your podcast, The Wrong Cat Died, that it's, you know, American Idol meets X Factor meets some sort of thing where people actually die.
Yeah.
And so it's this unspoken competition. And then tonight they actually made it a competition by having all of the characters, you know, when they're singing, they always end it with a dance off. And the whole thing just goes and goes, being judged by none other than
Old Deuteronomy,
who is Andre the Mother Flippin' Shields.
And there were two special guests. I don't know if we have who they were, but there were guest judges too in the beginning, because Old Deuteronomy doesn't come out, you know, in the regular story and the normal original Cats either until partway through Act 1. Mm-hmm. So there were some other guest judges that were having a blast up there too.
I thought they were just audience members.
No, I think they are ballroom. I think they are, if you are ballroom knowledgeable, which neither of us are, that I think it was people from the ballroom culture, because there was, I wish I took a picture of it. There was an announcement outside that had 2 pictures and 2 names and some background on them.
Oh, interesting.
So I think they have different ballroom judges every night.
Oh, so every single night.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So I guess that's a celebrity aspect that they're pulling all that in. Yeah. No, they were having a blast. I actually thought they were cast members at first, because one of the 2 of them was so animated and so excited that I thought she's like, she's got to be a character right now.
They were there. I think they were brought for this particular reason.
That's funny.
Okay, I want to talk about one thing in particular that I thought was I was interested in really a lot, because there was never a picture or never really an idea, which was the set, because we got a runway. Mm-hmm. We had tables kind of cabaret style in the front. We had seats on the side, seats in the back. There was a balcony. There was stuff going on around everywhere.
This was kind of a good combination of Here Lies Love meets cabaret.
Yeah.
So it's a thrust stage essentially because everyone's sat in a U around this runway, and then everyone, like, we were sitting at one of 1, 2, 3, 6, 8 cabaret tables.
Maybe not even, probably like 5 or 6 at most.
I think it was 6 at most. Yeah, so we were literally right there at the tip of the table in this cabaret table, and all of the whole cast is coming down the steps next to us, and they're looking right at us and dancing behind us, singing in our faces, and at the end we got a nice shot of Andre DeShields' butt.
Yeah,
right in our face,
right in our face for the very, very entire bows. That was such an aspect that, like, I loved seeing Cats the musical was the junkyard feel. It's like you felt like you walked into that experience. And here I felt like I walked into a ballroom. There's a DJ up. There's the disco ball, which was a really cool interpretation of the Jellicle Moon. Mm-hmm. There's the whole thing is right in front of you, but also it's the performers are utilizing the whole space. So no matter where you are sitting, you are going to have a cat probably around you, someone dancing by you, and just this like visceral experience with it so in front of you. The thing about this show is whether you love or hate cats, and I do have a message which I can read here from someone who hated cats and went to the first preview and then sent me, like, they don't like cats. They're very clear that they're not a Cats fan. And this was their message. Well, Cats was everything. I really was overwhelmed with how much I love theater and feel the theater magic, and I cried a ton. This is the first time in a long time that a show has got that out of me. I'm not even crying at anything sad. And this is, again, someone who hates cats. Like, they say very clearly a few messages later, and I don't like cats, and this is still how I felt. And I think that's something that's really cool about the show, is because Cats is polarizing as a musical. And this version, while as someone like me who knows Cats and very little about ballroom and too much about cats, I got to like watch a version of Cats that was like, it still held true. And there were some really cool parts which we can get into about the relationships that they played and like all that stuff, that if you are a Cats super fan, you're going to love some of the different things, the tweaks that they do that still really pays homage to the original. But if you're a Cats hater and it's because you didn't like it because there's no story or, whatever it is, there's such energy in that room that there's no way you're not going to get chills from everyone around you just having the most fun time of their life.
It is a very interactive show, energy-wise. You're right. You're absolutely right. Well, tell your friend who sent the text, who I know is Dame Judi Dench. Don't lie.
Yeah. It's James Corden.
James Corden. Taylor Swift. I know you're texting all these people. They're collectively
Travis
sending
Kelce.
you. Travis, yeah. So the energy in the room is infectious, and maybe it was where we're sitting, or again, maybe it was the sound design or just the way that everything was. But we were like right there in the damn center of the space. I felt like I was on stage.
Yeah.
And everything, the energy, the music, and everything was pointing to the center at us. And you're right. If you don't like cats, then this is just a show that stands alone with some good music. Because the story, what story of cats? There is no story of cats, but the music itself, I'm not going to lie, that has a special place. I love the music.
The music's great, and this adds a little story because you get the ballroom competitions within each segment of the show. And because of that, you get a little bit more to the story maybe than you didn't get otherwise. It's a different interpretation because, again, like most of my show is about the relationships and the backstories. And you could see they played into a lot of those.
Yeah.
There were certain things that Mungo, Jerry, and Rumple Teaser were doing. And there were moments like there is, for the Tugger Mistopheles. If you are in on that bandwagon, they lean into that relationship. Tugstopheles is being amplified for that, which is great because that's something they lean into. But there were also the way they use syllabub throughout the show, the way they do a bunch of the characters. God, even Bustopher Jones, who is pretty universally panned by the Cats fandom. That particular number and the performer, they were so good.
Yeah, and played by Nora Shell, who I believe is uses they them pronouns. But what was very cool in the show was instead of saying Buster Jones he, they were saying Buster Jones they,
Yeah.
and I love that they've made that little tweak that maybe you don't even catch. I don't even think you caught it in the moment, but
I didn't. But then I caught it again with Skimbleshanks because
did they do the same thing?
They said it was for she because Skimbleshanks played by Emma Sophia, former guest and is. Oh, it's so much fun. I love Emma. Emma was one of my favorite stories I've ever heard about somebody who didn't book cats. And so for her to get her moment to be able to do this, like I when I saw her in the casting list, I immediately messaged her and I was so glad she had her full circle moment of getting cast in Cats now. And they did the same thing with Skimbleshanks and they said she for her.
Yeah, she did a female Skimble as an MTA operator, and it was so fun. Okay, let's talk about the choreography for a second too, because this is just nonstop dancing. I mean, Cats is always nonstop dancing,
yes,
but normally it's much more traditional,
yes,
and ballet and what you might think of traditional ballroom, maybe a little bit, but no, this is modern as it could be, with so many callbacks and shout outs to the pop culture moments. It is, again, I just enjoyed every single thing because every number was so different. And it was actually, I actually don't want to spoil it, but what happened when Old Dude got taken away, I thought was very, very good choice to call that out.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you haven't listened to On the Wrong Cat Died, we did an episode with the two directors and the musical director. So Jalen and Bill, the directors, explained a lot about that and talked about how they hired two choreographers from the ballroom scene. So Arturo and Omri are really, really, really good at what they do. And you could see what they infused into it, but also where they kind of paid some homage to what is Cats still. Like there were moments where, they're not in Cat. I think it's important that they're not dressed up in Cats with tails. They are dressed up as humans.
In the ballroom scene.
In the ballroom scene. They have some Cats motions. They kind of kept some pieces of it.
Yeah.
But they did a really good job of blurring those two lines of mixing the worlds. And so I think if you are a Jillian Lynn truist, or even a Andy Blankenbuehler, like you like the modern new version, you're still going to see pieces of that, but you're going to get this ballroom part that's just so fun.
It really is fun. I mean, I just want to give shout outs to all of the cast. I mean, Antoine Hopper is McCavity. He, most recently on Broadway in A Strange Loop. Shireen Pimentel is Jelly Lorum. I mean, God, this cast is so freaking good. Baby is Victoria, and the understudy for Skimbleshanks too. But yeah, the white cat Victoria, and what else did she do? What was she representing as the black cat? She switched costumes.
So she switched costumes because what they did mix some people around. Where like Emma played, I think, Cassandra and Skimbleshanks, right? So she was in the beginning in Act 1. She was bouncing around with Jenny Any Dots and like really leaning into that, and then came out as the MTA Skimble in Act 2. But they also were doing, because they did in their competitions, this is going to be a really bad description of ballroom scenes because as someone who doesn't know it, but the way it was explained to me is that there are houses, which is the groups are together. It's like a tribe almost, which is why, again, it fits such a good Cats kind of theme. But they do these kind of 1v1 like dance-offs essentially on the catwalk. And so there would be I think the very first one was there was at one point, I'm not sure if it was exactly first, but one of them was like Pretty Boy versus like An American Boy and something. And then there was like the duos and tag team. And then the one that you were talking about was the glamour. Yeah, and so it was which was cool because we got the glamour cat into it, but they were dressed up in like Prada, and it was like during the McCavity kind of number.
Right. Yeah, and let's go back to Jenny Any Dots for a second, played by Xavier Reyes. I don't know what pronouns Xavier uses, but Xavier presents as a man, but is very much dressed completely in drag for Jenny Any Dots. He just played it and sung it so well.
And then that was, I think, let's talk about that particular part, because that's Jenny Annis is the first one that quote unquote wins their battle.
Because they're using actual trophies.
Yes, they have actual trophies. And so
actual trophies.
Jenny Any Dots won, or I guess Cassandra won for Jenny Any Dots. Yes. But they go up and the judges, she was very much
stage mom.
The judges go up and hand a trophy. And I said to Jalen after the show, I said, this is the first time I got to watch another cat that's not Grisabella win. And it made me so happy because that's what I've been fighting for. So they gave me at least moments. There's still, Grisabella goes to the Heaviside Layer. Spoiler alert. But I got some moments where Tugger got to win. Cassandra got to win. Bustopher Jones got to win. McCavity got to win. I will clarify if you don't want to know, one of my favorite tweaks was Mungo, Jerry, and Rumpelteazer did not win, but then they steal the trophy, which is the best on-brand thing that they could have done. Because I was like, oh, they lost? Why'd they lose? And then they tell you, I was like, oh, that's so good.
They still get the trophy.
They get the trophy.
Right. Yeah, I'm looking through the rest here. I mean, Chastity Moore, who played Grisabella too, is just like they played that in such a subtle take on Grisabella, and the fact that, like, she's looking back at the glory days of when she used to walk the runway, and be able to compete, and struggling to get up the steps, and she has like this old ratty trophy that's probably 50 years old or whatever it is. But yeah, just the way they tied it all together in the actual competition format it's just brilliant. I can't say enough nice things about this. I just love it.
Yeah. And Temptress is a very well-known ballroom icon. She's well-known. Like, so that was kind of like a very smart use of like, let's blur these two worlds together.
Yeah.
And she could sing. I mean, she really sang. I mean, she got to be able to do memory. Like that's the iconic number everyone knows. And she really belted it out. One person we haven't talked about, which floored me, because it's also this is a difference from, I think, what you expect. But Robert Silk Mason as Mistopheles.
Robert Silk Mason as Magical Mr. Mistopheles deserves all the shout outs because, I mean, they can do 180-degree split.
The splits
and the pirouettes. And, like, I think there's actual Juilliard ballet. Yeah, went to the Juilliard School of Dance. So they are Juilliard-trained ballet dancer.
The thing that threw me off, and maybe part of it was heels, is Mistopheles is usually this short, tiny cat.
Kind of nerdy magician.
Yeah. Silk is like 6'5", 6
at least.
I mean, so tall,
all legs,
but utilizes that and makes this like has so much fun with the magic. The magic was hilarious. There was some of it was like right in my face at one point, but it was like their dancing was so strong, and being able to do a version of the turns, being able to do all of the splits and all the different leg lifts and everything to kind of bring that together as one of the main dancing numbers. And I thought it was really smart that they picked, I don't know if this was intentional, but a lot of the heavy dance numbers were the ballroom people.
Yes.
So you got really, really strong of that ballroom aspect.
Yeah. There was so much of just hardcore ballroom dancing that they kept coming back to. And again, everything, the energy just pointed at us. It was an experience. I mean, I was blinded by stage lights.
Yeah.
Because like we were on stage.
I thought at one point I was going to be the Jellicle choice. I thought I was going to have my dream come true because we were in the show.
We felt so in the show, was so blinded. And there was one point I was like, this is what they feel like when they're singing their big solos. Like, I'm going to pretend just for a half a second.
I love it too, because if you didn't see on social media, which I believe will be posted at that point, I was wearing a shirt that has the 2019 Dame Judi Dench that says, "You'll never be my Jellicle choice."
Nice pixelated Dame Judi Dench.
It was Dame Judi Dench. It was the only way you could sell it on the internet without getting in trouble, is my assumption. But because of that being my shirt and where I was sitting, every time the spotlight hit me, I'm like, we knew somebody sitting on the other side of us. I was like, she's going to have to see this, shirt behind Andre DeShields.
Yep. Oh, yeah. So Andre and the judges were behind us. We were between the judges and the runway. It was the perfect spot. It was so cool to hear everyone literally singing behind us while hearing we could hear the individual voices behind us while hearing the mix and everybody else coming from the speakers above us. And it was such a surreal experience.
So we got to talk about Gus. Junior LaBeija.
This dude came out and commanded the respect
ballroom icon
of the audience.
Let me just tell you, there was a guy about 4 or 5 seats down from us who was loving everything about the show. I mean, just in his element. And the minute Gus came out, he stood
he gave
a standing ovation before he said a single word.
He was standing ovation for the whole song.
Yeah. And I mean, this is a legend in the ballroom scene, it seems like. And he has like a presence, a stage presence, like nobody you've ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah. He barely moved and commanded. It's one of those King George from Hamilton sort of subtle performances that it steals the show by barely moving.
But he's also, because of like his history and his status as an icon, he is Gus. Like he's the epitome of it. Mm-hmm. And so it was just perfect. And the Jelly Lorem could sing.
Yeah, Jelly Lorem, played by Shireen Pimentel, she can just, I mean, I think she's the most, I would say, experienced Broadway person. She was young Nala in Lion King on Broadway, Guinevere in Camelot, at the Muni. I mean, she's been in the Encore's production of Into the Woods as Rapunzel. I think she's probably followed the most Broadway-focused career track out of everyone so far, except maybe, or in addition to, Antoine Hopper from A Strange Loop, who was Macavity.
And Andre DeShields.
And, well, okay, Andre DeShields.
And that guy. And that one guy.
Andre Motherflippin' DeShields is in his own category.
Yeah, for sure.
Like when he got to the throne and you know, he's got this amazing outfit as old dude. Got to the throne before he even sat down, just took his moment and acknowledged everyone in the crowd. Like the amount of respect the community has for this guy is impalpable. It was so cool to experience that, literally feeling like I was on stage with him.
And feeling like old Deuteronomy, like he's commanding the whole tribe.
Yeah.
I love that they handed him these like 10 commandments and it had the Jellicle Moon in different stages and they lit up and he was just showing the crowd in slow motion. So there were a lot of little Easter eggs like that I feel like I need to go back 20 more times to just catch all the different people and sit in different seats to see the different angles, because there's stuff behind us happening all the time. There was a whole bar behind us. I don't know if you noticed that. Over your right shoulder there was a bar, and they were drinking in parts. They were handing out drinks to the people in the front row at parts. That was, I think it was supposed to be one of Buster Jones's like clubs. But there were just so many things happening and everything was so thoughtful. Like everything had a moment that for the Cat superfans tied into either that character or that relationship, or that part of the Jellicle Ball that you're supposed to know.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back for more of The Wrong Cat Died. I do want to cover one thing that we haven't talked about. That is, I was very curious to see how they did, because I knew, having talked to Jalen and Bill, that I was going to get a ballroom kind of like competition. But I didn't know how they were going to do the Jellicle Ball, because the Jellicle Ball doesn't end Act 1, but it's really close to ending Act 1 because then Grisabelle comes out. But this is for anybody who's ever done Cats, everyone who talks about it, it's a 11 or 12, 13 minute just cardio workout, just like an absurdly difficult dance that has different little sections that they each do, and it's all dance, and it's it's the Victoria lift and all that stuff with it. And I was really curious how you do that in the ballroom setting. And they were so smart, because they got through that number before, and then they started kind of the music, and it's like, oh, they're about to get into it. And they infused the ballroom sections, but use the catwalk to have different parts kind of do different parts of the ball. And you saw a little bit of that traditional Cats that you would expect. And then you saw the ballroom, and it fused in this whole thing. And being so close, I was like, they are also getting their Cats Jellicle Ball experience, because they looked wiped at the end of it. Like they got to do that, like that moment that everyone who does Cats knows about.
Yeah, that was something else too that I loved about being so close, is they would, some of the Cats would come and just sit down at the steps next to us. It was like we were a fly on the wall to them. They're performing to the rest of the house. I still cannot get over these seats.
Yeah, seats. But even if you're not there, if you're sitting up in the balcony, you're going to be seeing, like at one point, Grisabelle's up in the balcony with you.
Oh yeah, yeah. She was up on like the upper balcony.
In the upper balcony,
yeah,
and
second balcony.
You are going to get a incredible experience no matter what. There's just so many Cats everywhere. They don't get breaks. It's just like the regular Cat show. They are constantly on stage doing something, and they are a lot of times interacting with the crowd even more so than they're used to, because when they're not on the catwalk, they are either in the aisleways or up the stairs, and they are right in your face at times.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're next to you or sitting next to you, so they have to remain in character. So, they can't just sit down and be like, oh, okay, I guess I'm off stage now, because they're literally just sitting next to us. What else do you want to cover before we wrap this up?
I'm begrudgingly
let me guess.
gonna cover
Grisabella.
the Jellicle choice.
Yeah.
So it didn't change my mind, which I didn't expect it to.
I didn't even consider that as a possibility.
It didn't I was, as much as I love the show and I love this production was so much fun, because I just think it spans all theater fans, all ballroom fans, just people who want to go have a good time will like this versus a very traditional musical. But it didn't change my mind. But I will say, here's the things I liked about it. I'm gonna give my positives. I really, really liked the idea of her arc being a former ballroom that's a lot less aggressive than the way I've interpreted it on my podcast. But I loved how they did that throughout. So it's like you got a much more pushing her like old lady New York cart around in the beginning, and you could see the trophy hanging out there. And then at one point, Syllabub holds the dress up, like when she's singing at the end of Act 1, and it's like, oh, this is the dress you could be wearing, like remember. And then they did a really cool thing that we should talk about too, which was they did a montage of, I think, like very famous ballroom people that have passed.
Yes.
To kick off Act 2.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a really, really cool moment to be able to honor, people that were in the ballroom scene that are no longer with us. But they also, at the end of that, they showed the Glamour Cat, the House of Glamour, which was Grisabella's house, which I think, was cool to kind of use that as that was her past, that she was this icon in that stage. And then to bring her back out in that moment and in that dress is a very clever way to bring her story back to a full circle.
Yeah. Yeah. Something you said on the way out was like that you liked it. She doesn't have to take her curtain call in her rags dress.
Yeah.
Which I never ever considered. I mean, yeah, you come out after you've died on stage and you're still covered in your blood, but they at least gave Grisabella a redeeming shot here in this production.
Yeah, and it tells more of that story of, like, in the lyrics, it's remembering her, what she was, and she's back in that moment. She's got the trophy with her. She's got the ballroom gown on. She's reliving that moment much more so than kind of like laying on stage almost about to die that you're used to,
right,
but still building the hell out of memory. So since this is a crossover episode, we've got to end with our normal ending. So do you want to go first? Do you want to do rapid fire? You want to do your questions or my questions first?
We'll end with yours because this is a cats focused episode. Okay. So we'll end with yours. So normally on my podcast, I'm sure you know that I ask the 3 standard closing questions, but I think it'd be more fun in this instance to answer my questions in character as a cat of your choice.
Okay. Oh, so I get to pick which cat I want to answer as.
Or do you want me to give you 1, 2, or 3? Or you give me 1, 2, or 3, and it corresponds to somebody I want you to be.
Okay. Let's go with 3.
That is Gus.
Gus. Okay.
Okay. So as Gus, what motivates you?
The spotlight. I am ready for that spotlight still. I am I want the audience, the 7 curtain calls, whatever that's in the lyric. I want to have everybody still adoring me, but I also still want to be the Jellicle choice.
All right. And then what advice would you give to your younger self and younger people listening now starting out down a similar path?
So if you're a cat in the ballroom scene, I would stretch and work on your flexibility, because as someone who cannot do the splits, it seems like that is going to be an important part of your repertoire for dancing, but also own your confidence. Like, that's the thing I loved about all of the performers are they were in their own element at all times as still kind of the cats, but there's a confidence on that stage. And so that's my real advice is if your Gus is going to tell you to be confident and own your your own dance moves and stretch before you go do it.
Okay. So, Gus, then, final question, hardest one. If you could only see one show for the rest of your life, you can see it as many times as you want, what would you see?
Probably the Rumpus Cat, right? Because that's
his jam.
That's where I thrived most as a performer. So I'm going to watch the Rumpus Cat operatic piece or whatever that we're allowed to perform. Yeah. Okay, so now we're doing my rapid fire here. So we're going to stick with just this production.
Okay,
so if you could perform as one of the cats in this production, who do you want to go on as?
Ooh. This is a tough one because I really love the Skimbleshanks concept. And I love the choreography that Emma Sophia did as Skimbleshanks. I think it's great. But Magical Mr. Mistopheles, that was just such a fun number. And if I could stretch like that.
If I could do a single thing that Silk did,
if I could do a single thing Silk did,
thrilled.
Okay, I'm going to go with, I'll go with Magical Mr. Mistopheles.
Okay. Favorite and least favorite cats. And we'll narrow this down to like hang out with, personality wise from this particular group. And they brought personalities to these cats.
I feel like I want to hang out with McCavity. I think he's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I want to hang out with
break some laws.
Break a few laws, stay up past my bedtime. I think I want to hang out with McCavity. Least favorite cat. Oh, geez. I mean, what are you going to do with Victoria? She's just kind of hanging around, watching everybody. It seems like Victoria's still kind of learning how to have fun.
Yeah, early on. But Victoria can dance.
She can dance.
Victoria was fun to watch. Okay. What was your favorite song from this particular production?
Well, the music's all the same, like you said. Mm-hmm. So I can't go by song. I have to go by dance. I have to go again with Magical Mr. Mistopheles again.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I always ask fun one before we get to the important question, which you've actually answered on the show. But my fun one is this time, there was a DJ that kind of kicks off the show, and I think DJ'd during the intermission and a little bit at the end and does some stuff throughout. Which cat do you think would be the best DJ?
Probably Mungo Jerry and Rumple Teaser together.
Yeah.
Because they would each control one side of the DJ
ones and
booth.
Twos. Yeah. Each one's on the ones and twos.
Yeah, they would be a great duo.
I like that. Okay, the important question. Now, you did answer this because we did a review. You get to review shows with me. We reviewed the 2019 movie very early in this podcast.
Yes,
this
we did.
was like the 10th or 11th episode. But for this production, who would be your Jellicle choice and why?
I just loved the Mistopheles number.
Yeah.
Because he kind of saved the day. The day. Continued the Jellicle tradition by saving the day.
Yeah.
And bringing, of course, Old Dude back. But then the way that Silk played this character and the choreography and the way they were having Silk actually do magic. There were some actual tricks on stage. Legit magic. And I just think that's just fun. So I if I were Old Dude, I'd be like, oh, you saved me from this not so great situation so I can continue and rebirth people. I think I'm going to give you a little bit of special extra credit this time.
I love it. I'm going to answer this today because I generally have defended Gus by storytelling. Mm-hmm. And I think this Gus, as wonderful as they were, didn't feel like they were ready to go.
No.
Like they were still really owning the moment. Like they did not look ready to leave the stage. So I'm going to tell you
Gus was like, give it.
I'm going to tell you who really owned the moment. And maybe it's just by having her on before and having met her and chatted with her before. But Emma and Skimbleshanks.
Sophia.
Let me tell you, she plays MTA person, basically.
MTA Skimble. And let's just say the MTA doesn't work super great. So if we need to sacrifice somebody out here to get something to work better, it would be Skimble. But no, she brings such energy as both the characters she plays as Cassandra in the beginning. She is all over the audience. She's like in the laps of some people early on. I think she worked her tail off and deserves some Jellicle love as the Jellicle choice. Yeah, I'll give you that.
It was hard. There's a lot. I mean, they all put in work. There's so many good performances in the show, and it's such a brilliant concept. And shout out to Jalen and Bill again, like this, and their whole team. I mean, everyone that worked on it, like you can see how much work went into the thoughtfulness of this production and what they're bringing to it to still honor the source material, but bring something new. And I'm telling you, go run to the show. It's only running for, I believe it's 8 weeks now.
Put on your high heels and run to the show.
It extended, exactly. So we'll link the how to get tickets and everything. They are selling quickly. So get your tickets, whether you love cats, hate cats, if you love ballroom, if you love an experience, if you love theater, if you love dance, if you have any of those, you are going to have the time of your life.
I think especially if you don't like the show Cats, traditionally you should have to see this.
Yeah.
Because it presents it in such a different, unique, and fun, just fun way. So if this is your first experience to Cats, it's going to change your life.
It's going to convert some people, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
So I have had a blast talking with you through this.
Yeah.
I had an incredible time seeing the show. I'm so glad we got to go. I will be going back many times. Okay. So how do we stay in touch with you so we can close this out here?
On the social media, still have no clue what I'm doing, but I still post some stuff. So theater_podcast on Instagram and Threads. Find me on Facebook at Official Theater Podcast and on TikTok at The Theater Podcast.
I am very simply The Wrong Cat Died everywhere you can think about it. But yeah, thank you. And thanks for everyone for listening to this episode of The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breakdown the catastrophe. To follow along, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any of those podcasts. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at The Wrong Cat Died, or check our website, thewrongcatdied.com.